Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic movie review. This is my review of The Poseidon Adventure, a disaster movie from 1972, directed by Ronald Neame and produced by Irwin Allen, who produced many disaster movies back in the day. Movies like Fire, Flood, The Swarm, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, The Towering Inferno, sequel to this film. This film also has a remake that came out in 2005, directed by Wolfgang Peterson, I believe, that starred uh, Josh Lucas, Kurt Russell, and Richard Dreyfuss. Pretty good remake, but this channel is all about the classics, so I'm talking about the original here. The plot is basically uh, a sea voyage. The Poseidon is a ship named after the Greek god of the sea. It is New Year's Eve, and the captain of the ship, who is played in a serious role by Leslie Neilson, is told by his superior to go full ahead. The captain is threatened with having his position replaced with a guy who will follow the orders anyways. He gives the order for the ship to go full ahead with tragic consequences in the end because a giant wave hits the ship goes upside down, and there we have a fight for survival for the rest of the film. So we got a young Gene Hackman in this movie playing Reverend Scott, who is a very heroic character in the film. And he's given some very cheesy dialogue to work with all throughout this movie. But because Gene Hackman is Gene Hackman, he makes it very, very convincing for this character, and for the most part, really does sell a lot of the corny dialogue. And so, um, yeah, he's good in the film. You also have um, Jack Albertson, who was Grandpa Joe a year before this came out in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. You have Shelley Winters, who was in Night of the Hunter, one of my favorite Robert Mitchum movies. Well, they're the Rosens. You also have the Rogos, who is Ernest Borgnine. He is Detective Lieutenant Rogo and his wife Linda. So you got the Rogos. You also have a singer who was singing in the band when all the disaster begins to happen. Nani. You also have a brother and sister, Susan and her little brother Robin. We also have Roddy McDowell in a very small supporting role as Akers. He is like a bellboy porter on this cruise ship. We also have Red Buttons as James Martin, who is this little lonely guy who likes to jog along the ship at the beginning of the film. The first 15 or 20 minutes or so of the film are basically all set up, setting up the characters, letting us get to know them a little bit. We get a little hint of each of their personalities and a little bit of their backstories, so that by the time the ship gets hit by the big wave and is turned upside down, we are sort of rooting for certain characters wanting to make it. And so a lot of these characters are would-be survivors, and really is kind of a game, watching them drop off like flies throughout the film, trying to guess who's going to survive and who isn't. And that's really part of the tension, a big part of the tension throughout the movie. And this movie really did get the formula down for many movies to follow in this disaster movie formula, where a lot of movies would follow on a lot of these same patterns, where these movies would start out the same way with getting to know a lot of the would-be survivors, and became a kind of a staple in one of the cliches of these films later on, as disaster movies would make a comeback in the 90s. But here we have a really good example of it, very well done because of the performances. It's really the performances by all these actors that keep us glued to the movie, because without the performances, we really wouldn't care much about any of the outcome of anybody. So, uh, yeah, everyone does a really good job. The scene where the big tidal wave comes along and hits the Poseidon and turns the ship upside down, causing the floor to become the ceiling and the ceiling to become the floor, it's actually very well done for 1972. You know, you got the tables up here, you got people hanging from the tables and falling and hitting the floor and hitting the walls and hitting all kinds of objects left and right and rolling and all that stuff. It's actually very well executed, and for 1972, it's just all done with good old-fashioned camera trickery, some optical effects, some pretty good old-fashioned stunt work, and it all works very well. Once the ship is turned upside down, those that did survive up to that point start to discuss what to do next, and so a bit of panic starts to set in when we have a bunch of people kind of disagreeing on what to do, because a bunch of people that are there want to listen to the authority of the ship that says just stay and wait for help. But Gene Hackman has the idea of trying to get out of this room before it floods, because he knows that eventually the water from the outside will find its way into this room, and their only choice to survive is to escape this room and try and make their way through the ship from the bottom out to the top, which is now, which was the bottom is now the top. And so uh, yeah, there are people that want to stay and just wait for help, and so Gene Hackman wants to lead those that are willing to get out of there. He wants to lead them out, and so there's this giant Christmas tree that they decide to put up and lean on an angle so that they're able to climb, use the tree to climb out to this higher level and get out of this giant room. Specifically, the characters that were set up in the beginning of the film, where we got to know each of their little backstories and got to know them a little bit, those are the ones that end up climbing the tree, following Gene Hackman's character to survive and get out of this room. And everybody else just pretty much goes along with the authority figure in the room saying that they're going to stay and wait for help. And then before they know it, in comes the water, and then they run out of time and they have no choice but to try and climb out of this room. But of course, when dozens of people try and all do the same thing at the same time, it doesn't work out too well. And so those people that decided to wait to the last minute, they didn't have the best fate. So after that point, it basically becomes our 10 survivors trying to make their way from the bottom to the top, which, like I said, the top has become the bottom has become the top. And so, you have all these elevator shafts they got to get through, all kinds of hallways and corridors, rooms that have been burnt up. They got to make their way through rooms that are underwater. Along the way, you do have some nice little moments of levity that cut into the tension every now and then. The characters are pretty well written to the point where they're all given little moments to show a little bit of themselves, show a little bit of their own humanity, show a little bit of uh, their own heroic side sometimes. But every now and then, these characters do succumb to the fear of the situation that they're in. And, I guess, that's the name of the game, survival of the fittest. Something that I very much like about this film is that even though it is an action adventure film, because of the nature of the disaster, it very much feels like a drama, given that it's a very dramatic and dire situation. And so, yes, this has moments that feel like an action film because there are explosions and, fire and people trying to survive through a dangerous situation. But it's all done with characters that feel very much real because of the performances and because of the dialogue. The dialogue is very well written throughout the movie. Unless you're Gene Hackman, then you're given some pretty corny dialogue. But like I said, Gene Hackman is so damn good in this movie that he transcends the corny dialogue. And though this is, on the outside, an adventure action film, at its core, to me, this movie is more of a drama. If you like a good disaster movie, I do recommend this movie. And yeah, the effects nowadays are considered a bit dated, but if you enjoy a good classic movie, then the effects shouldn't bother you. Yeah, they don't hold up to nowadays CGI standards, but it's 1972. It's all practical and model work, so that's kind of the stuff they were working with back then. And so, as long as you are the kind of person that can mainly follow a story along because of performances and screenplay, if that's the kind of thing that will keep you hooked, then look no further. The Poseidon Adventure is definitely an action disaster movie that I highly recommend, and it is a good drama too. And Gene Hackman is very much a very good reason to check this movie out for his performance alone. If not for some of the corny dialogue in this film, this would be a 4-star movie for me. But because it does have quite a bit of cheesy dialogue in there, it's a 3-star adventure and highly recommend the movie. This is my copy of the Blu-ray. There it is. There is the ship upside down, as you can see. And yeah, 1972's The Poseidon Adventure, a movie that you can find on streaming, but I highly recommend the hard copies myself. But yeah, 1972, The Poseidon Adventure, check it out. So thank you very much for watching this classic movie review. If you're into this kind of thing, if you like classic movies, click on the bell and become a subscriber, and look out for more of these reviews coming your way. If you want to share this video, I always appreciate it. That kind of thing always helps out the channel. And don't forget to like, comment, and of course subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. All of you take care. Have a great day. Peace out.